Hey there, welcome back to our Harkla YouTube channel. We're so happy to have you here with us today. Welcome if this is your first time. You're gonna love it. You're gonna have a great time with us. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Jessica. We are the Certified Occupational Therapist with Harkla, and today we're gonna talk about the connection between learning, retained primitive reflexes, and if you're a teacher, what you can do to help your students.
So before we really jump into the meat of this video, we want to first kind of talk about the pyramid of learning, which is really like the Bible of development and neurodevelopment and just primitive reflex integration, because the pyramid of learning really shows us that these reflexes at the bottom of the pyramid make that strong base of support. And in order for these higher level skills like ADLs, ocular motor skills, reading, academics, social skills, emotional skills, in order for all of those higher level skills to develop, we have to have a strong foundation. Those reflexes have to integrate, our sensory system has to be integrated, our central nervous system just really has to be solid in order to achieve those higher level skills. So when we send kids to school who have retained primitive reflexes or who have missing building blocks in that pyramid, we're really doing them a disservice by asking them to read or write or learn when they're missing parts of that pyramid, and their pyramid could crumble at any given moment.
Now, we do have other YouTube videos where we talk about signs of retained primitive reflexes in the classroom, so highly recommend that you go watch that video as well. If you are a teacher or a therapist working in the schools, that video is going to be really helpful for you to identify specific students that are struggling because of retained primitive reflexes. But what we're going to do now that we've kind of given you a background of why primitive reflexes are so impactful in the classroom, we're going to give you some activity ideas that you can implement into the classroom for all students. Because even if you have some students whose primitive reflexes are not impacting their learning because they're mostly integrated and they're successful in the classroom, these activities are still going to be super beneficial for them.
Yes. Now, like Jessica said, we want to make sure that these are implemented consistently, kind of like brain break activities, or we're all going to warm up our body before we do a challenging activity or before we're going to sit down for a while. So it's just kind of purposeful activities that you can add into your daily classroom routine. If you're homeschooling, this would be a great opportunity for you to add these into your homeschool routine. If you work with preschoolers, if you work with elementary school, high school, middle school, wherever you work, these are all going to be beneficial, and you'll probably see kids that struggle more than others, and that is going to be your sign that those are the kids who need a little bit extra work when it comes to these primitive reflexes.
Yeah, so the first activity is crawling. Now, crawling is a developmental milestone that we want to see happen in infancy because it is related specifically to the STNR, the symmetrical tonic neck reflex. So implementing crawling into the daily routine can be super helpful for so many students. Maybe you take a brain break and you offer a couple of different choices, and crawling is one of the choices, and your students can crawl in between the desks, they could bear crawl, they could crab walk, or just the regular hands and knees crawling. Any one of those variations is going to be super beneficial.
The next activity we call mummy walks. So there's a couple of different ways that you can do this one. The first way is just standing up and walking with your arms straight out in front of you, and you're going to be turning your head left and right and left and right, trying to get your chin all the way over to your shoulder. Now, bonus points if you do this and you actually have something for them to look at on either side of the wall. So sometimes you could have different visual charts up on either side of the room, so as they're mummy walking or mummy kneeling across the room, they're looking and calling out the different items on the charts. So you could draw it on the whiteboard or whatever works in your situation. You can also have them get on their knees and do a tall kneel mummy walk, so they're doing the exact same head turn with arms out in front of them, but they're kind of walking on their knees instead. Now, what you're looking for is to make sure that their hands aren't going with their head each time. We want to make sure that they are disassociating their head, their eyes, their neck from their upper body with that one. So this one specifically works on that ATNR.
And if you are noticing that your students are struggling with this and their arms are moving in coordination with their head turns, then see if you can provide them an object to hold out in front of them, maybe like a PVC pipe or a ball.
What classroom just has PVC pipe laying around? How about a pencil? How about a pen that they have to hold?
Pencil's too so small.
No, they just have to hold
in
it.
between their palms?
Yes.
Oh, or a PVC pipe.
Or a ruler. Or a paper towel roll. I mean, there's lots of other options. A PVC pipe.
Maybe they have someone in the PE class or the maintenance closet. I don't know. Whatever works, you'll figure it out. This is a really good activity.
All right, the next activity, windmills. We love windmills for a variety of reasons. This is an activity that really works on ocular motor skills, vestibular processing, getting the head into different positions. So what we're gonna do is have everyone stand up, and they're going to reach their arms above their head, and they're gonna look up at the sky, and then they're going to reach down and look down at the floor, touching their right hand to their left foot, looking back up to the sky, making sure that a vision goes up, and then reaching down, left hand to right foot, and back up and back down, and back up and back down. The trick with this one is to make sure that the head extends and then flexes. When you see your students keep their head looking at you or their vision at you while they're going up and down, that's a sign that potentially their vestibular system isn't quite able to process and modulate this input, or it just means that they're too cool for school and they're kind of uncomfortable with this activity. So either way, it's important to make sure that you cue them to look up to the sky and then look all the way down and bend that head all the way down.
Now, this activity is specifically going to target the Moro reflex and the TLR, the tonic labyrinthine reflex. And because it does incorporate so much vestibular input, this is an activity to keep short and sweet. Don't do too many reps because you likely have some students who are going to become overstimulated by too much vestibular input. So a great way to do this would be to do a couple reps of the windmill and then get down on the floor and crawl. We want to do some proprioceptive heavy work after that vestibular to reorganize the sensory system.
Yes. Okay, the next activity is yoga. Yoga is amazing because actually a lot of the yoga flow movements and like positions are really great for integrating those primitive reflexes
I'd
as
say
well.
all of them.
Most of them, 90%, all of them, okay, all of them are gonna be really great. So we actually have a YouTube video that kind of goes through a yoga flow specific for primitive reflex integration. We have a full video in our full course on primitive reflex integration as well. Or you can just, pull up a YouTube video, have the class do the yoga flow moves. You could lead the yoga flow. Whatever you want to do, spend, 2 to 3 minutes just doing a quick yoga flow, getting into different positions, weight bearing, getting the head upside down, getting the head looking up, stretching, moving. It's a great brain break activity. It's a great, just like a wake up attention activity.
Yep. And then the last activity we're going to give you today is called sequential finger touching. And this is very simply using the thumb and the fingertips to tap, making sure we're getting circle fingers, and we're doing it with both hands simultaneously. And the focus here is on the palmar grasp reflex, which directly has an impact on handwriting and fine motor skill development. So if you have students who are struggling specifically with handwriting, this is a great activity to implement into their routine, but also to use as a warm-up before a handwriting activity for the full class.
Yes, now keep in mind when you're watching your students do this, if they're looking at their fingers and they're trying to coordinate this activity and their tongue and their mouths are going crazy, like really mimicking those movements, that is some overflow associated movements. It's either a sign of a retained primitive reflex, it's a sign of kind of that they haven't mastered the activity yet. Sometimes we still see that in new novel activities up until about the age of 11, and then once they master the activity, that overflow should go away. But if you're seeing it with the sequential finger touching, you're probably seeing it with handwriting, cutting, and like any of those object manipulation tasks as well. So just keep an eye on that, bring that to their attention, give them something to chew on, give them some chewing gum or a squirt of sour spray or something to kind of keep their mouth busy while they're learning those skills if it's appropriate in that setting.
Yeah. Now we just really kind of touched on primitive reflexes in the classroom, gave you a couple of activity ideas, but if you want to learn more about primitive reflexes in the classroom, sensory processing in the classroom, we do have a full digital course where we teach you all of these things and we give you an entire library of activities to do for individual students who need more or for the entire class. It's designed for teachers, therapists, anyone working in the school, so definitely check that out.
Yes, and we hope that this was helpful. We hope you implement these activities. If you do, Let us know in the comments, like this video, make sure you're subscribed to our channel as well.
And if you like our content, make sure you're following us on Instagram. We're at Harkla_family, as well as at All Things Sensory Podcast. And make sure you're listening to our podcast, All Things Sensory. We're actually on YouTube, so you can also watch the podcast, as well as all the other podcast platforms.
And with that, we will plan on seeing you next week for another video all about primitive reflex integration.
Okay, bye.
So we're occupational therapists now?
Before we jump into the meat, it's the Bible.
Okay, moving on from our PVC pipe activity, we're going